You ever have one of those mornings where nothing about the day looks like a turning point? Coffee lukewarm, a boarding pass folded in your pocket, the sky the color of a washed denim jacket, and then, in 45 minutes, everything you thought mattered flips on its head. That's where this starts. Marcus Reed sits in the LAX VIP lounge, quiet hands folded, thinking about a contract worth $500 million, and a feeling in his gut that something's off. You know what I mean? That small, steady voice that says, "Pay attention. Don't sign yet." Act 1. The climb, the calm, the premonition. Marcus didn't get where he is by being loud. He grew up in South LA, where winter wasn't about snow, but about cold radiators and harder lessons. He learned early that respect isn't given. It's taken by being useful, by outworking the room, by showing up even when nobody asks. He built Verity Systems from a one-room office into a data company that helps big businesses fix bias in their systems. Not headlines, actual code that catches the little decisions that make life unfair. This meeting with Skybridge, a struggling airline with glossy ads and thin margins, was supposed to be the next leap. $500 million for a logistics and AI overhaul. It would change the airline, and it would change Verity's reach. Marcus had flown out alone, wallet light, book heavier, the quiet kind of confidence that comes from having solved problems before. But there's a thing about deals that move too smoothly. The silence before the slide. In the lounge, everything looked polished. The staff, the slides arriving on laptops, the VP-level chatter. And that silence tightened Marcus's chest. "They're desperate," he told his assistant Leanne over a call. "When people rush, they hide things. Stay sharp." Leanne laughed it off on the phone. "You sound like a conspiracy blog, Marcus." But he wasn't joking. Act 2. The flight, the slight, the pivot. Onboard Flight 207 to Denver. Marcus settled into 1A, a seat he'd booked like any paying customer, no fanfare. He brought a paperback and his coffee cup, and for a while the hum of pre-flight was background music. Then Tyler Sands, 29 sneakers, the kind of wealthy slack-jawed confidence that looks like privilege on display, plopped into the row without checking a boarding pass. He didn't ask, he assumed. "Is this seat taken?" Tyler said, grinning like it was a favor to everyone to be there. Marcus closed his book, polite and small. "It's mine, sir." Tyler laughed, not a small laugh, a laugh meant to erase the person it's directed at. "Yeah, right. Come on, move over. I'll sit for a minute." The flight attendant. Anna came over, smile in place, but eyes flicking like a referee who's been told which team to favor. "Sir, we're showing an issue with our booking system. 1A is double booked." Marcus felt it then. Not surprise, not anger, but the old, comfortable disappointment, the one he'd felt his whole life when someone assumed his face meant less than his work. He said, "I confirmed this seat yesterday. My ticket, my receipt." The attendant's hands tightened around the tablet. Tyler's jaw set, and from behind him some passengers shifted their phones up like judges taking notes. "Look, we can offer you a seat in Premium Plus." Anna offered words tuned like currency. "Or we can have someone from ground handle it." Tyler smirked. "Let the man move. It's a whole flight." The pilot's voice in the speakers overrode everything. "Cabin door will close in 5 minutes." And in that short space, the whole equation boiled down to who is allowed to be comfortable and who must make room. Marcus did what he always does when the world tries to make him loud. He stayed quiet. He stood unhurried and stepped off the plane. No yelling, no spectacle, just a man who refused to be the character assigned to him. He walked to the check-in desk, and when a gate agent asked if something was wrong, he said, "I'm stepping off." She blinked. "Sir, are you sure?" He answered, calm as a ledger closing, "Yes. Now, here's where it flips." Anna, the flight attendant who'd swallowed her professional script and followed orders, watched him leave and, on a break, quietly sent a text. "It was a tiny, scared thing, I saw it. They made him move. I recorded the exchange." Marcus got that message in the terminal, and his whole posture shifted from wounded to strategic in a heartbeat. He didn't yell. He didn't threaten. He sat down in the VIP lounge, opened his laptop, and started to move. Act 2. The decision, the data, the silence Marcus called his legal lead. Short-clipped, do it. Activate Clause 7. Violation of core principles. Terminate intent to partner. Effective immediately. There was no performative drama. There was a spreadsheet of values and a box checked we don't partner with companies that let frontline staff practice discrimination, whether intentional or systemic. $500 million gone before the coffee cooled. Why? Because Marcus built a company on the idea that data is a mirror. He had Anna's recording flight logs, the gate agent's later admission, even a few comments from other passengers that popped up after a clip got out. When the evidence lined up, it didn't matter how glossy the meeting had looked the day before. Market sentiment moved faster than apologies. Skybridge's office in Denver erupted. Executives who'd joked over champagne that morning were suddenly on mute, staring at a notice that read, "Termination of intent to partner, due to violation of core principles." The stock dipped. Headlines popped like popcorn. CEO's signature deal collapses after first-class incident. People loved to watch a fall. Nobody loved to watch the reasons for it. Act 3. The Fallout. The lesson, the ripple, the footage hit social with the brutal speed of a match thrown on dry grass. Chat boycott. Skybridge trended analysts wrote think pieces, and the company's PR team scrambled like crew in a storm, while investors called their brokers with the kind of panic that makes even calm executives sweat. Skybridge's CEO, a man who had never carried luggage in his life, found his name on editorial pages while the company's stock plummeted. But Marcus didn't celebrate. He sat in a quiet corner of the lounge and thought about the attendant who risked her job to send a message about the people who had been told to make space for others all their lives. He thought about systems, not villains, that normalize small humiliations, and how small humiliations add up to a culture that costs people their dignity every single day. He also offered a solution. He picked up the phone and started calling other carriers. Honest ones with track records of respect, transparency, and complaints handling, and an appetite for accountability. Within a week, he had lined up partners who would implement Verity's system partners who understood that respect isn't a PR campaign. It's a measurable, auditable process. The consequences were real layoffs, suspensions, an internal review, and Skybridge's CEO stepping down within 30 days. And beyond the corporate theater training programs, changed priorities shifted. And Anna, the attendant who sent that text, was invited to help design a new frontline training module. She went from trembling in the break room to standing in front of a small camera telling trainees that seeing bias isn't complaint, it's duty. The moment Marcus left the plane quietly became the story millions clicked on. But the substance of the story wasn't his calm or his company's power. It was the intersection of courage and systems. If Anna had stayed silent, if the recording had been deleted, if social attention had wandered, that contract would have closed and nothing would have changed. Sometimes, power is a quiet phone call. Sometimes it's a file shared with a lawyer. But the energy came from people at the edges pushing truth into light. Emotional beat. The human core. When Marcus tells the story, his voice breaks twice. Once when he remembers being invisible as a kid, and once when he remembers Anna's shaking hands. "I didn't do it to punish," he says softly. "I did it because I built a company that stands on a principle you can't build systems that solve bias while partnering with companies that practice it. There's bitterness there, sure, but also relief, like a knot finally untied." He never wanted the humiliation to be the thing that defined him. He wanted the response to it to be the lesson other people could learn from. Final note: the debate and call to action. Here's the part that always starts the comments section. Did Marcus do the right thing? Should one man's decision be able to erase a $500 million deal? Is boycotting a company for one incident fair, or does it encourage performative justice? I don't have a neat answer, and that's the point. This is a messy human problem. It's about power and responsibility, about systems and personalities, about whether we tolerate small slights until they become big disasters. So I want to hear from you. What would you have done in Marcus's shoes? Do you think a CEO should cancel a contract over one incident? Or should there be a process that fixes the system before a nuclear option is used? Tell us a time you saw someone pushed aside because of bias. How did it make you feel, and what happened next? Drop your story in the comments. And if you want to stand with the idea that dignity matters, type, stand up, and share why. If you disagree, say so. Tell us why. Let's talk about this without pretending it's simple. If this story landed for you, hit like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more stories where quiet decisions make loud change. Because sometimes the loudest power is the one exercised without a microphone. And sometimes, just sometimes, that's enough to change an industry.